50 washes, 4 months, 5 identical shirts. One question: does price actually predict how long clothing lasts? I bought the same style of shirt, same cut, same fabric category, same care instructions, from 5 different brands. $20 at the low end, $200 at the high end. Then I washed every single one of them exactly the same way, 50 times, and measured what happened. The $20 shirt's result will surprise you. The $200 shirt's result will make you angry. And there is one exact price point in the middle where quality stops improving no matter how much more you spend. I'll show you that number at the end, and it will change how you shop for the rest of your life. 5 shirts, 50 washes. One number that matters more than any of them. Here's exactly what I did, because the method is the only thing that makes any of these results believable. I selected one garment category, the classic point collar dress shirt, 100% cotton, long sleeve, the most common style sold across every price tier in menswear. I bought the same size, medium, from 5 brands spanning the full budget to premium range. A $20 entry-level shirt, a $45 mid-range shirt, a $90 heritage position shirt, a $140 designer tier shirt, and a $200 luxury shirt. All 5 purchased new, same week, same season, to control for manufacturing batch variation. Then, 50 wash cycles. Standard machine wash, warm water, tumble dry medium. The exact instructions printed on all 5 care labels, since all 5 specified the same washing method. 1 wash every 2 to 3 days across 4 months. I photographed each shirt at wash 0, wash 10, wash 25, and wash 50. I measured 4 things every single time with the same tools, under the same lighting. This is not a sponsored test. I bought all 5 shirts with my own money, and none of these brands know this video exists. Before I show you shirt 1, you need to understand what actually happens to cotton fabric during a wash cycle. Because the damage is not random. It is mechanical and chemical, and it is completely predictable once you understand the process. Every wash cycle does 3 things to a cotton fiber. First, the agitation in the drum physically abrads the fiber surface, which is why fabric gets softer over time. You are wearing down the outer layer of each thread. Second, the heat from the dryer causes the cotton fibers to contract, which is the primary driver of shrinkage, and it happens more in lower quality yarn because the fibers were spun with less tension to begin with. Third, detergent chemically strips the dye molecules bonded to the fiber with every cycle, which is why color fades. And the rate of fade depends entirely on how the fabric was dyed in the first place, not on how expensive the shirt was. None of this is news to textile engineers. It is just never explained to consumers, because the explanation makes it obvious that price and durability are not directly connected. I measured 4 specific things on every shirt, every check-in. I'll walk you through exactly what those 4 metrics are and how to read them in about 2 minutes, because once you know them, you can run this same test yourself on anything in your closet, and you'll never buy a shirt the same way again. Shirt 1, $20. Entry-level fast fashion price point, wash 0, 100% cotton, 7.2 ounce weight, machine stitch collar, single needle top stitching at 7 stitches per inch, wash 10, no visible shrinkage, color consistent. Collar holding shape, wash 25. Shrinkage measured at 2.1% in the body length, within the normal range for 100% cotton, since cotton fibers naturally relax and contract over repeated heat cycles regardless of price point. Color fade. Minimal, measured by side-by-side comparison against an unworn swatch kept aside from the original purchase, wash 50. Total shrinkage 3.4%. Collar point curling slightly at the tips, the first visible sign of structural fatigue. Seam integrity. Fully intact, no loose threads, no popped stitches anywhere on the garment. For a $20 shirt, this is a genuinely strong result. The fabric held its weight. The dye held its color. The only weakness, collar curl, is cosmetic, not structural. Most people assume a $20 shirt falls apart by wash 20. This one didn't. Now, the 4 metric test. Write these down because you will use them forever. Metric 1, shrinkage percentage. Measure the garment length flat, shoulder seam to hem before the first wash. Measure again after every several washes. Anything under 5% total shrinkage after 50 washes is acceptable. Anything over 5% means the cotton was spun with insufficient tension during manufacturing, a direct marker of lower grade yarn regardless of what the brand charges. Metric 2, color retention. Keep an unworn swatch or an inside seam allowance as your reference color. Compare the visible body of the garment against that reference under the same light every time. Even fading across the whole garment is normal dye behavior. Uneven fading, patches, especially at high friction points like the collar and cuffs, signals a poor quality dye bond, which has nothing to do with price and everything to do with the dyeing process used. Metric 3. Seam integrity. Check every seam, shoulder, side, armhole, collar attachment for loose threads, gapping, or popped stitches. A well-constructed seam holds its stitch density throughout its life. A poorly constructed seam loosens progressively, visible first as small gaps between stitches before it eventually fails completely. Metric 4. Collar and cuff shape retention. These are the highest stress points on any dress shirt because they're handled, folded, and ironed more than any other part of the garment. A collar with proper interfacing, the stiff internal layer that gives it structure, holds its point shape through 50 washes. A collar with cheap or insufficient interfacing curls, softens, and loses its crisp edge by wash 20 or 25. Run those 4 on anything you own. You'll know within 10 washes whether you bought well. Shirt 2, $45. The mid-range price point most people consider the safe choice. Wash 0, 100% cotton, 7.6 ounce weight, double needle top stitching at 8 stitches per inch, fused interfacing in the collar. Wash 10. Performing exactly as expected, slightly heavier fabric than shirt 1, holding shape well. Wash 20. This is where it got interesting, and not in the direction you'd expect. The fused interfacing in the collar, the adhesive bonded internal layer, cheaper to manufacture than sewn-in interfacing, began to separate at the collar points. Small visible bubbling, the telltale sign of fusing failure. This is a known weakness in fused construction. The adhesive bond degrades under repeated heat exposure from the dryer, and once it starts separating, it does not recover. Wash 50. Shrinkage 2.8%. Color retention strong, even fade across the body. But the collar fusing had fully separated at both points, creating a visible bubble and a soft, structureless collar that no longer held a crisp line. I'll be direct about this. I expected the $45 shirt to outperform the $20 shirt across all 4 metrics, simply because it cost more than double. It did outperform on shrinkage and color. It did not outperform on collar structure. The fused interfacing was a genuine manufacturing shortcut that a $20 shirt with simpler construction did not have a chance to fail at, because it used a different, less ambitious collar build to begin with. Sometimes the cheaper shirt wins not because it's better made, but because it attempted less. Shirt 3, $90, the Heritage brand. And before I show you the wash results, you need to know why I picked a brand in this specific tier, because the story behind it explains what should have happened. This price tier is typically occupied by brands with genuine manufacturing heritage, companies with decades of construction history, often family-owned, often telling a story about craftsmanship passed through generations of pattern makers and finishers. The $90 shirt I selected for this test came from exactly that kind of brand. Founded mid-20th century, a long-documented history of quality shirting, the kind of brand that earns trust through decades. Not advertising. Wash 0, 100% Egyptian cotton, 8.1 ounce weight, the heaviest fabric of all 5 shirts in this test. Sewn-in interfacing, not fused. The more labor-intensive, more durable construction method. 9 stitches per inch, wash 10 through 25. This shirt performed exactly as its heritage and construction promised. 0 shrinkage measurable. Perfect color retention. Collar holding a sharp, crisp point with no degradation whatsoever. Wash 35. A seam failure at the left underarm. A 4 centimeter gap where the side seam had simply come apart, not gradual loosening. A clean structural failure, the kind that typically indicates a skip stitch or insufficient thread tension at one specific point during original construction. A manufacturing defect, not a design flaw. I want to be fair here. One failure at one seam on one unit is not proof that this brand's entire production line has a systemic problem. It could be a single quality control miss on this individual shirt, but it happened. On the most expensive heritage tier shirt in the test, at wash 35, a seam that should have held for years gave out. The fabric was the best of all 5. The construction philosophy was the most serious of all 5. And a single stitching defect undid all of it at wash 35. This is the uncomfortable truth about quality testing. Even excellent manufacturing has a defect rate. A $90 price tag buys you better odds. it does not buy you a guarantee. Shirt 4, $140, designer tier. This is where the 4-metric test earns its keep, because this is the shirt where the numbers tell a story that contradicts the price entirely. Wash 0, 100% cotton, 7. 4-ounce weight, lighter than the $90 Heritage shirt despite costing $50 more. Fused interfacing in the collar, the same cheaper construction method that failed on the $45 shirt dealt metric 1. Shrinkage at wash 50, 3.1%. Higher than the $90 shirt's 0 shrinkage despite costing more, diametric 2. Color retention, strong, no complaints here. Even fade, consistent with proper dye bonding, diametric 3. Seam integrity, fully intact through all 50 washes. No failures, metric 4. Collar shape, fused interfacing, began the same separation pattern as shirt 2, visible bubbling by wash 22. By wash 50, the collar had lost its structure in the same way the $45 shirt's collar did. A $140 shirt used the same cheaper interfacing construction as a $45 shirt, and the 4-metric test caught it exactly the same way. The price tier did not predict the construction method. The construction method predicted the result. At $45 and at $140, identically, shirt 5, $200. The top of this test, wash 0, 100% cotton, 7. 0-ounce weight, the lightest fabric of all 5 shirts, despite being the most expensive by a wide margin. Fused interfacing, 7 stitches per inch, the same stitch density as the $20 shirt at the bottom of this test. I want you to sit with that for a second, because it is the most important number in this entire video. The $200 shirt had the same stitch count as the $20 shirt and a lighter fabric weight than every other shirt in the test, including the $20 one, wash 10. Shrinkage already measurable at 1.8%, faster onset than any other shirt in the test, wash 25. Shrinkage at 4.2%. Color fade beginning to show unevenly at the collar and cuffs. The high friction points, suggesting a weaker dye bond than the price would imply, wash 50. Total shrinkage 5. 7%, the only shirt in the entire test to cross the 5% threshold that signals genuinely inferior cotton spinning. Collar fully collapsed, fused interfacing separated at both points. Uneven color fade visible across the whole garment, not just high friction zones. This shirt scored worse than every other shirt in this test on every single one of the 4 metrics. It cost more than all 4 other shirts combined. I will say plainly, this result made me angry. Not because expensive things should be perfect, nothing is, but because this specific shirt's construction specs, measured directly against its own care label claims, did not justify a fraction of its price. The brand name on the collar was the only variable that explained the $200 now. The sweet spot, the number you came for, lay all 5 results side by side. The $20 shirt, strong shrinkage and color control, 1 cosmetic collar weakness. The $45 shirt, strong fabric performance, a collar construction failure from fused interfacing. The $90 shirt, best-in-class fabric and stitching, 1 isolated seam defect. The $140 shirt, good fabric, but the same fused collar failure as the $45 shirt. The $200 shirt, worst performance across all 4 metrics of any shirt in the test. Plot price against total performance score, and the line is not straight. It rises sharply from $20 to $90. Every metric improves as you move through that range. Fabric weight goes up, stitch density goes up, construction methods get more serious. Then between $90 and $140, the line flattens. And between $140 and $200, it drops. The sweet spot in this test sits at $90. That is the price point where every single quality metric reached its ceiling. The heaviest fabric, the highest stitch count, the most durable interfacing construction. Beyond that price, you are not paying for more quality. In this test, you are paying for measurably less. That number will not be identical for every garment category. Suits, denim, and outerwear all have different sweet spots, because their construction complexity is different. But the principle holds everywhere. Every category has a price ceiling, beyond which quality plateaus and then often reverses, because the brand has shifted from funding construction to funding marketing, retail rent, and brand positioning. Run the 4-metric test before you ever pay above that ceiling again. Which result surprised you the most? The $20 shirt's resilience or the $200 shirt's failure? Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. The people who test before they trust stop paying for a number on a price tag that the fabric itself can't justify. You watched all 50 washes. You're one of them now. Next video, I'm running this same 4 metric test on denim. 5 pairs of jeans, 50 washes, and one brand at $35 that outlasted a pair that cost $310. Link in the description.